This morning on World News Now, breaking news: the giant explosion and fire right outside of Waco, Texas.
This intense blast felt for miles, and the rapidly spreading fire, the search for victims and answers as this story unfolds. It is Thursday, April 18th.
From ABC News, this is World News Now with John Muller and Diana Perez.
Truly disastrous situation in West Texas unfolding right now. Hundreds, at least 100 injured. Fatalities confirmed. We don't have a specific number on that after this massive explosion at the fertilizer plant.
That's right. There are a lot of injuries. There are possibly some deaths as well. And we want to get right to ABC's Steve Osinsami, who's about a quarter mile away from a football field that was turned into a triage center, essentially an emergency triage center. Steve, can you tell us what you see, what you hear?
Yeah, I just left that triage center, and there were probably a good several hundred emergency personnel there, firefighters. There were nurses from all over the region who had come to help. There were doctors in the triage center. There were no patients when we arrived. All the serious patients had been flown to medical centers across Texas, burn centers in some instances. They tell us, though, they were standing by on the ready with more than a dozen ambulances there in the event that their search and rescue ends up being a rescue, and that they actually rescue people from these homes that have been crumbled and flattened by this explosion. I am a couple miles away from the explosion, from the plant where it exploded. I'm standing outside of a building, and I don't know if you can hear this, but this is the glass from that was shattered from the building here. There are many people here who have lost their homes, who are struggling to find a place to stay tonight because all of the hotels are filled. There are lots of people who are coming here to help. And we talked to some of those people today who told us that they could hear the explosion miles and miles away.
Did it sound like a boom or?
Boom, like a rock fell on the city.
It felt like a rock fell on the city. You said you have family how close were they to you?
They're in West.
They're in West?
Yes.
Where are they now?
They're at their folks' place.
Yeah, there was family.
Yeah. This is just crazy.
It is, and it's a bad time of year. You know, everybody's getting ready to fertilize.
Oh, really?
Their crops.
We're being told that there are hundreds of people who are hospitalized today. There's no sense of how many fatalities there are in this situation currently. No one we talked with gave us any estimate of that. We did hear that there were some firefighters who were injured, because what happened is the firefighters were dealing with a fire at the plant, and then the explosion happened afterwards.
Steve, right now, can you talk about, is the actual search and rescue continuing? Has it even started? Because I know there were concerns about the toxicity of the air with ammonia compounds, which can be damaging to the eyes and to the respiratory system. Also, there's still a bit of a concern about a second fertilizer tank. Have they been able to get into these areas quite close to the plant?
We can't see if they're actually in those areas now, but we've been told that they are searching, that search is continuing tonight. As far as toxicity in the air, we're not aware of anything, but I can tell you that the closer we get to the plant, you can feel the ash in the air on your skin as you get closer and closer to the plant. And who knows what's in that ash, but currently, we're not aware of anything, but that remains to be seen.
So, Steve, just to give us an idea of what kind of town we're talking about here, what we know about West Texas is that there's 2,800 people who live there. About half of them have already been evacuated. There was a nursing home, an apartment complex, and an intermediate school among the 50 to 75 structures that were damaged or decimated, as we've heard from the mayor already. Can you tell us a little bit more about this town?
Well, we've run into quite a few farmers who all tell us that, the fertilizer plant exploding is terrible news for them on a number of levels, in particular because they're going to need what that fertilizer plant was producing. It's a small town. We're not too far from Waco. I'm sort of standing on what looks to be the main drag, and it looks like small town Texas. There's a railroad track sitting in front of me. And there are, a few businesses that are lining the street, an old corner drugstore. Right now, I don't know if you can hear it, but it's one of the owners of the businesses that it's the Ray's Electric and Plumbing, who's actually, cleaning up the glass that was shattered. And this is far away from the explosion, but it was still strong enough. The impact of it was strong enough to break all of this glass.
Steve, this is a town of volunteer firefighters. Even the mayor of the town is a volunteer firefighter. There was reports earlier about a lot of unconfirmed firefighters where they really couldn't track down where they were. Have you talked to any families who had that look in their eye, like they haven't heard from their loved ones yet? Have they told you anything?
Well, we've heard some of those reports concerning firefighters as well, but we haven't really been able to confirm anything. We haven't gotten anything official that we can truly report, but there has been some concern about firefighters who were hurt in this explosion, because it happened, of course, while they were there.
Absolutely. Steve Osunsami, ABC News, thank you so much for that live report, and we'll check back.